Hello, and welcome to this gathering of SSUC, Spiritual Seekers United in Community. We are so glad to be with you today and to welcome you and to bring you this gathering for Sunday, August the 1st, 2021. We come to you from the south side of Edmonton, from Treaty 6 territory, grateful for the gift of this day, for the gift of the land, for this opportunity to be together, to share wisdom and music and community. We're so fortunate to have wonderful and talented people here to bring you this experience today. Pam and Janet bring us music on the piano and cello. Janice and Jeff offer us song leadership today. And making it all technically possible is Andrea and Noah. Thanks to each of you. We'll share a few invitations with you to know that we have a number of things in the works this summer, and first and foremost among them is our working to get back to see each other in person. We really, truly can't wait to see you, and our team, our working group is gathering this month to put the finishing details on how we will return, and just how we can be together safely to be the community and to rebuild the community into what we know and remember. We will begin some of those in-person gatherings on September the 12th. And we're really grateful for your patience. This summer allows your ministry team, Nancy and I, to take some needed time away after what has been a pretty intense 16 months of working together with you. So we are grateful to have the summer of a little bit more rest, and then let us come back and be fully charged and ready to welcome you back in person in September. This week, on Wednesday, a concert with SSUC's Backyard Band, Four on the Floor. Please, if you haven't heard them, please come and hear them. If you'd like to hear them again, it's your chance. This Wednesday at 7 o'clock on the SSUC lawn. Please join us. A few of our young adults and families with kids gathered last Sunday where the weather cooperated and we were able to gather a little bit and then put some plans in place to have a barbecue on Sunday, August the 15th at 6 p.m. So young adults, families with kids, anyone associated with them, please feel free to come enjoy some time together in a barbecue on the lawn. An invitation from Emberwood and Allison Brooks Starks and Zoe. We look forward to this experience entitled Nest. It is a series of meetings to prepare everyone for a solo in nature, 24 hours to be alone in nature. No experience is necessary. You'll get all the training and all the preparation you need. And it's from grade 12 to older adults. If you're interested, there's an information night online on August 11th and lots of information on the website you see on your screen. And we just want to take a moment to thank you all for the support that you've given and you continue to give. We appreciate that immensely. That helps us to keep the work that we're doing ongoing. And so there are ways that you can continue supporting us, or if you've never donated to SSUC, you can do so by any of the means on your screen, and we thank you for your support. As we awake to the experience of being together as community, in all the ways that we do that, let's sing about waking our senses to the experience of living. Whether it's early morning while you're watching this or later in the day, our senses are what we use to experience this life in this world. Let's wake them. Let's sing.
Power
It's time to light our candles, a beautiful symbol of the light in each of us, the light we share, the community we build, and the significance of each of us. You're invited to light a candle at home as we light our candle here. Let's remember the light that shines equally in each of us, uniquely in each of us, and our ability to shine it into the world in only the way that we can. Let's remember this light as the power of connection when we place the light and all we value in the center of our living. As we light our candles, we take the opportunity to share some news with you in our community. We remember the light of someone special among us. We share the news that Phyllis Fowler died yesterday morning in the Grey Nuns Hospital. Phyllis wasn't with us for long. She came to us and the SSUC community in 2018 and was a shining and smiling presence, as the picture will remind you. Her face was beaming every Sunday when she joined us, from 2018 up until we stopped meeting together in 2020. Her family will gather to mourn her loss and celebrate her amazing 94 years on Saturday, August the 14th. In honor of her beautiful presence, in honor of her peaceful completion of her living, we're going to sing words that we speak at every celebration of life, words that remind us that we are always safe in the undying light of love.
Safe in the
As we continue our series called Windows to Wonder, Pondering Everyday Sacraments, we ponder today the sacrament of quiet. Quiet can be found in lots of different places and in lots of different ways. And to open that topic to us, a beautifully written and illustrated book by Deborah Underwood, illustrated by Renata Liska. It's entitled The Quiet Book. There are many kinds of quiet. First one awake quiet, jelly side down quiet, don't scare the robin quiet, others telling secrets quiet, coloring in the lines quiet, thinking of a good reason you were drawing on the wall quiet, hide and seek quiet, last one to get picked up from school quiet, swimming underwater quiet, pretending you're invisible quiet, lollipop quiet, first look at your new haircut quiet, sleeping sister quiet, right before you yell surprise quiet, making a wish quiet, top of the roller coaster quiet, best friends don't need to talk quiet, surprise visit from Aunt Tilly quiet, do iguanas bite quiet, before the concert starts quiet, trying not to hiccup quiet, first snowfall quiet, car ride at night quiet, too many bubbles quiet, story time quiet, tucking in teddy bear quiet, and bedtime kiss quiet, what flashlight quiet, sound asleep quiet.
Deep, deep and still, holy in the silence, our cares are set aside for a time. Sacred is the hush that falls upon us, that calls upon us to listen, listen to the voice sublime. Deep, deep and still, holy is the silence. Our cares are set aside for a dawn. Sacred is the hush that falls upon us, that calls upon us to listen. Listen to the voice sublime of truth deep and still. Holy is the silence within us and around us now.
Listen to this ancient spiritual story of the prophet Elijah. Find in it the symbolism of each part of the story, the metaphor in its details that asks deep questions of Elijah, and so then asks deep questions of us. A retelling of 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 11 to 14. It's been a hard time for the prophet Elijah. He's had perhaps his most vividly memorable moment in which he's challenged the prophets of a different God to a kind of deity smackdown, a debate, a standoff, a battle. He left victorious but broken and ashamed of the lengths that he went to win. So he went on the run, alone and hungry in the wilderness, wishing to die. But finding a meal or two, he carries on another 40 days and 40 nights. That should sound familiar. Symbolizes his seriousness and his commitment to this journey he's on. This possible redemption journey, this search for some guidance, some clarity, some wisdom. And his journey takes him to the mountain of Horeb, known elsewhere in the Hebrew Scriptures as Mount Sinai, a fact that points again to this connection to the story of Moses and the Exodus. So Elijah knows this is the mountain where Moses received the commandments. Can he expect some wisdom here also? And so the story goes that he stood on the mountain waiting. And there was a great wind, so strong that it was splitting mountains and breaking rocks in pieces. But God was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but God was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but God was not in the fire. So Elijah, at the end of all this commotion, finds what he's seeking not in any of these big dramatic events, but rather in the silence. Either impossible to describe or devilishly hard to translate, or both. Depending where you read this story, this encounter is described as a gentle whisper, a sound thin and quiet, a gentle breeze, a still small voice, a sound of a gentle blowing, a sound of sheer silence, a soft murmuring sound. Elijah waits still longer on the mountain, thinking there must be more. But that was it. An encounter with sacredness not found in the extraordinary and powerful, but in the simple and quiet, ordinary moment. These are words inspired by an ancient story. So may we find wisdom for our living.
If I could give one gift to you, as solid as the morning dew, a window pane the light shines through, the spaces in between us, a gift for you my heart would bring, the sweet release of everything, the breath I take before I sleep, the spaces in between us, trusting in what might arise, without a thought preceding, as simple as a baby's sigh, resting and receiving. It's not what keeps our souls apart, but what connects and dreams us. The vast potential of the heart, the spaces in between us. I offer what my heart has found, the silent love that's all around, a symphony without a sound, the spaces in between us. If I could give you more than this, let it be forever's kiss, mindful of my mindlessness, the spaces in between.
I've learned a lot watching Olympic coverage from Japan in the last number of days, and one of the things is the Japanese aesthetic of ma. Ma is an everyday word from the Japanese language that incorporates various meanings of space and time. The space between two structural parts, the gap between two events in time. Ma is a kind of emptiness, an interval of in-between. It's a sort of negative space. Ma can be seen in the background and in various aspects of Japanese culture, such as the deliberate pause at the end of a bow before coming back up, or the honoring of pauses and silence in conversation. In music, that in-between space is the silence between all the notes. The empty space of ma is not a void, but an energy filled with possibility. These are words from the Tao Te Ching. 30 spokes meet in the hub, though the space between them is the essence of the wheel. Pots are formed from clay, though the space inside them is the essence of the pot. Walls with windows and doors form a house, though the space within them is the essence of the house. A few examples from the art world. This is a screen entitled Pine Trees by Hasegawa Tahaku. The empty space, the foggy expanse, is considered as important as the trees. Examples from music abound, but the silence that takes place within a piece of music can create profound effects. Effects of surprise, or humor, or fear, or a sense of expanded time and space. I want to just share with you one of my favorite pieces of music, Samuel Barber's Adagio for Strings. In it, an arc travels from this hushed sadness to intense grieving, and then finally back into quiet and silence again. And this music increasingly builds in intensity with denser textures and stronger dynamics and ascending registers in the strings. And at one point, the intensity reaches such a level of agonized pain that the strings appear unable to go any further. They're stuck on a note in the melody that gets louder and louder until it is thrown off into complete silence, creating this climax of emotional catharsis. Here's just a piece of that. Without the silence, how can there be dynamics? How can we know the softs from the louds and the louds from the softs? In the world of graphic art and design, when there's an absence of text or the absence of an image, it's called white space. It's the space on the page left unmarked, untouched. It's what makes art beautiful in some ways. And artists would probably say that white space is not blank. It breathes beauty and gives the eye a place to rest, a canvas on which something else might be placed. Without it, clutter takes over the art, and sometimes the eye is meant to be drawn to the negative space. And this occurs so much in art, much like the panel of the pine trees that I showed you, but it also happens in just everyday images that we see all around us. A few examples of white space design elements in just kind of everyday logos and things we find all around our world. We see in the tines of that fork, the white space, the empty space that creates the wine bottles. We see the shape of Australia in the leg and the arm of the ballet dancer. And then that famous FedEx logo where the arrow is drawn between the E and the X in the white space. And the tree of the Pittsburgh Zoo that creates in its white space the gorilla and the lion. Our eye is drawn not to just what is drawn, but what isn't. Bonnie Gray writes in her 2014 book, Finding Spiritual White Space, quote, "We too are canvases. We long for quiet and beauty. We crave the balance between action and inaction, between full and empty. You know, though the absence of a thing is tricky to define. It certainly confused Elijah when he was awaiting a spiritual experience in some dramatic mountaintop time. The natural events that he experienced are not quite what he was looking for. They didn't have the wisdom he sought. And he didn't find it until he opened to the less than obvious. The challenge for us, I think, is that we like to fill absences. We like to fill empty space. We like to talk rather than experience silence, particularly if we think it might be awkward. We talk about quiet as this lovely goal to find peace and calm, but when it comes right down to it, seeking those in-between places is not easy for us. There's a huge part of us that actively resists the quiet and those in-between places, the white space of our living. We have machines that engross us. There are internet companies whose whole purpose for being is to dominate our attention. And they know just how to do it too, don't they? Designing interfaces that scroll endlessly. There's never an end. That leave us with this combination of despair and hope, this mix of information and entertainment, and they know exactly the balance to hit, and they do it, and they know what they're doing. Because the thing is that most of us are just seconds away from a distraction that is so pure, so effective, so complete. It's always in our pocket or on the tablet 2 feet away from us. It's as close as the first sign of boredom. Vanessa Zoltan and Casper ter Kuile host a podcast called The Real Question. And on their most recent episode of July 26th, they had as their guest for that episode John Green, famous author and podcaster himself. And he was speaking to this kind of sense of engrossment in the machines of our living. And these are his words. There is this background pain or discomfort that comes from boredom, that comes from not feeling engrossed, not feeling engaged. And a person wants to treat that, to anesthetize that, at least I do. And it's really hard not to when I'm holding the thing that can anesthetize me. The problem is that on the other side of the pain of boredom is something really lovely. But it's almost impossible to get there because I have this tool of distraction in my left hand all the time. The push and pull inside of us all is a reaction to our world. It's about our abilities to cope with whatever we deal with daily. We like the feeling of being engrossed, of not having to think, or maybe rather, not having to choose what we think about. And so we binge the TV shows we do, we scroll the endless stream to get that feeling of being absorbed into something else that doesn't require our stress, our consternation at the world, the anxiety about the decisions we have to make in our lives. Bonnie Gray, again, from her book, Finding Spiritual White Space. Finding that space isn't about carving out an hour of time to escape the things that stress us. It's the opposite. It's getting away from everything we do to distract ourselves from all the hidden pieces in order to nurture our soul. Another example from the music world. One night, let's go back to the night in August of 1952. It wasn't a time I was around for, but David Tudor stepped onto the platform of the aptly named Maverick Concert Hall in Woodstock, New York, to play John Cage's new piece, 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Seating himself at the piano, he placed a score on the stand and set a stopwatch, closed the lid, and sat quietly for 33 seconds. Briefly opening and then reshutting the lid, he reset the stopwatch, sat for 2 minutes and 40 seconds, occasionally turning the score's pages. And then he repeated this process, this time for 1 minute and 20 seconds. And finally he stood and bowed to polite applause from the remaining audience and walked off stage. And it would cement John Cage as one of the most controversial and significant composers of the 20th century. People were angry. They thought it was a publicity stunt. They thought it thumbed a nose at the entire Western musical tradition. But John Cage offered some intriguing insights when asked afterwards about the event. He said, "They missed the point. There's no such thing as silence. What they thought was silence because they didn't know how to listen. It was full of accidental sounds. You could hear the wind stirring outside during the first movement. During the second, raindrops began patterning the roof. And during the third, the people themselves made all kinds of interesting sounds as they talked or they walked out." What once was a controversial art piece that debated whether this was music or not has in the last 70 years calmed down into a recognition of its place in the evolution of our understanding of art. I was reminded again of this at the Imagine Van Gogh exhibit last week. When you enter the exhibit, Well, before you enter the exhibit, before you enter the main hall, there are descriptive panels. And as you read them, they, in a very 2020-ish way, portray the idea that art can't exist for art's sake. It isn't even the artist's intentions that define any work. It's the interplay between the artist and the one who experiences it. That's where the art happens, in that space between the art and the viewer or listener. The creator doesn't spell out the meaning. The meaning is created when the audience experiences it. I think without John Cage, we wouldn't even have that discussion. Those are the places in between us. When we can meet Van Gogh in a completely different medium and way than what he could have ever imagined or intended, and yet the art speaks. These are the quiet, not silent, but quiet places where we find everyday sacraments. Here's another way to look at it. Nate Mercereau is an LA musician who's recorded a series of duets with, you'll never guess who, the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, incorporating the sound of its notorious hum. So Mercereau says he was inspired to make these duets after he read an article about how engineers were working to silence the humming of the bridge. And when the west sidewalk was retrofitted with new railings, the wind started passing through the railings and creating this hum, literally passing through the spaces in between. And in the brief time that this sound exists in the world, Nate decided to capture it and play with it and partner with it. Here's just a small clip. What a better example of living in the spaces in between us, and not only finding the beauty in the ordinary, but helping to create it. May we continue seeking the everyday sacraments. And if today is any indication, we will open ourselves to the fact that we don't just see everyday sacraments, not just with our eyes, with all our senses, in nature, in the arts, in the experiences of our everyday. So with gratitude to the Zalatak family who beautifully sang and recorded the song you heard a few minutes ago, let's remember just a few of the words from that piece that instruct us to keep seeking the ordinary wonders. I offer what my heart has found, the silent love that's all around. A symphony without a sound, the spaces in between us. Mindful of my mindlessness, the spaces in between us. May it be so for each of us.
Live deeply in this moment. Find the stillness deep inside. Enter the quiet, the calm inner space, and peacefully drift, peacefully drift, peacefully drift beyond. Live deeply in this moment. Find the stillness deep inside. Enter the quiet, the calm inner space, and peacefully drift, peacefully drift, peacefully drift beyond. Live deeply in this moment. Find the stillness deep inside. Enter the quiet, the calm inner space, and peacefully drift, peacefully drift, peacefully drift beyond. Live deeply in this moment. Find the stillness deep inside. Enter the quiet, the calm inner space, and peacefully drift, peacefully drift, peacefully drift beyond.
Let's strengthen our intentions to live as we have heard wisdom, as we have taken in what we may now breathe out in terms of our living and our actions. We speak these words together. I invite you to speak them or to listen to them, to let these words inspire our living. Let's strengthen our intentions. We speak our gratitude for the opportunity to listen underneath, within, and beyond the world we see on our screens, and toward the world we wish to build. We all need comfort in the midst of our losses. We all want to share what we have found to be true. We all need people in our lives to shoulder burdens together. May we find wisdom for the path before us, to pursue justice where walls shut out the light, to find perspective and understanding for ourselves and others, to find peace where we are anxious. We pray as those seeking balance and harmony in our living. May it be so.
Let the light of love shine through. Let the light of love shine through. May the best of who I am be the source of what I do. Let the light of love shine through. And I will share a heart of love, and I will do the work of love. This is my love. Let the light of love shine through. Let the light of love shine through. May the best of who I am be the source of what I do. Let my light of love shine through. And I will speak the words of love, and I will live the life of love. This is my love. Let the light of love shine through. Let the light of love shine through. May the best of who I am be the source of what I do. Let my light of love shine through. Let the light of love shine through.
Friends, we have been embarking on ways to find the extraordinary in the ordinary, to find the everyday sacraments. We do that in so many ways and with so many of our senses, and as uniquely as each of us. So as we go, may one way we find be in the silence and in the quiet. May we find the time, make the time, not only to be in quiet, but to make quiet part of us. In this spirit, we go into this week together, whatever it may bring. May you go into it well and healthy. May you go into it with an open heart and spirit. May you go into it being the light that you are until we see each other again.